Hi, my name is David Mueller, team leader of DMA Real Estate and principal broker for Real Broker here in the state of Michigan. And I want to welcome you to episode 4 of Now What? In our first couple of episodes, we kind of talked about, what you had to do to get a real estate license in the state of Michigan, and then we went over some lead generation techniques. And then in episode 3, we kind of talked about, so when you get a buyer, some of the steps that you want to take in order to, cement that relationship. And we used the analogy of dating when it comes to a buyer. Now, today, we're going to talk about sellers. And anything else we tell you, one thing you need to know is listings are the lifeblood of the real estate business. We have a little adage in our business that he or she who owns or has the listings wins. And listings are definitely the lifeblood of the business. If you want to form a team, you need to be generating listings to be able to generate buyer leads. And seller leads are the most important and also the hardest to get and the most costly. So when you get that lead for a seller, you need to convert. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So what I would do when you initially get someone that calls you and says, hey, I would like you to come over and talk to you about selling my home, what I would kind of recommend is take the lead right away and kind of take control of the situation. So one of the things that I do when I first get that call is I kind of go over, this is what's going to happen in the listing appointment. And I'll say, absolutely would love to meet you, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. What we're going to do is when I first get there, we're going to walk around the house. We're going to kind of talk about, some of the upgrades that you have. And then we'll also discuss anything that might need to be done to the house. Cost-effective improvements that will return on your investment. And then the next thing that we're going to do, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, is we are going to go over the comparable sales, and we're also going to go over the competition of the house, so we can get a range of where we think that the house would sell at. So what I do is I look at the comparable sales, what is sold in the past, to come up with the range of where I think the house would sell at. And the comparable properties as far as the competition are homes that are currently on the market but maybe under sales contract or just current active listings. And the active listings, which would kind of constitute the supply and demand curve of the property in the real estate market in that general particular section of the real estate market, that will determine where in the price range we want to list the property. And then I say, after we go through that information about what has sold, what's currently on the market, then we're going to do an estimation of proceeds for you to show you exactly what you're going to net from the sale of the home. And then lastly, we're going to go over the value proposition or the marketing plan, which would be everything that we're going to do to expose your home to the market. So the one thing that you want to know is these are the 3 things that your seller wants to know. And I've been doing this for 30 years. I've listed over 3,000 houses, and I've learned this to be true. Number one thing that a seller wants to know is, what is my home worth? The second thing is, what am I going to net from the sale of the home? Third thing is, what sets you apart from other realtors, and what are you going to do to expose the home to the market and get me top dollar for my home? Those are the 3 items of information that every seller wants. Initially in my real estate career, I would do a 2-step process where I would meet with the client, I would go through the house and gather information, then I would come back for a second appointment. And then I would do a handwritten market analysis, comparative market analysis. Today you can do them, you can generate them by computer, you can do them by hand. But what I kept finding out as I was moving forward in my real estate career was that their eyes would gloss over and they would just be like, they would stop listening to me. They wanted to know these 3 bits of information. So what I ended up doing was going from a 2-step process to a 1-step. So now what I do is when I go to the house, we walk through the house. we point out anything that needs to be done to the house. I might give some staging advice as well. And then we go and talk about, again, the current comparable sales and what's currently on the market. And then we come up with a price range of where we think the house is at. The second thing that I do is I go over the estimation of proceeds, which shows them exactly what they're going to net from the sale of the home. And the last, which is also the most important thing, is the value proposition or your marketing plan. But what some of the characteristics that a listing agent needs to have that a seller wants is, the first thing you need to understand is the fact that the seller is entrusting you with the largest financial investment that they have. I don't care if that seller is a CEO. I don't care if that seller is a teacher. I don't care if that seller is an engineer. I don't care if the seller, bags groceries at Costco. They all want a very similar thing, and they want someone, a real estate professional, to come in and take control of the situation. They have to control their household. They have to control their business. They want someone else to come in and tell them, these are the things you need to do. This is the value of your home. This is what you're going to walk away with. And this is how I'm going to accomplish that. So I phrase all that up front in my initial appointment. And then when I get to the appointment, I do the exact same thing as what I've said. We walk through the house, point out these items. And then what we're going to do is we sit down, and then I go over, and I bring now, with a one-step process, I bring all the sales, and we look at what was the original list price, what was the list price when it sold, what was the sales price, how many days on market, when did it sell, do we have to make any adjustments for that? And we use, local, and I use a radius search. So when I'm looking up comparable sales, I do a radius search. I do a search of, depending on how far I have to go, quarter mile, half mile, and I pull up the best comparable sales. And then what the solds are going to do is it's going to help you determine the price range of where we think the house would sell at. What I pay more focus on and more attention to is, what is the current competition? So if you have a house in a particular neighborhood that you're trying to list, and there's another one down the street and it's the same model and same floor plan, you need to know what that house is selling for. So again, what I always tell all my sellers is there's two criterion that determine where you're going to price it at. So I've given you the range, let's say 269.8 to 299.8. And let's say we've got comparable sales that are at the low end of the range. That might lead you to list at the lower ends of the range. So competition is one factor of where you're going to list at. The second thing is motivation of seller. If you've got a seller that's going to be facing foreclosure, they're going to be a little bit more motivated to sell, so you may go at the bottom part of the price range. If you've got someone that's got time and they're not really concerned about how fast it sells, you may go mid-range to the top range. The thing you always got to be careful of is that what you don't want to do is overprice a listing, because the kiss of death in the listing market is when you have to reduce a price. And especially in the market that we've been in currently, which has been an extreme seller's market, if they see any type of a price reduction, a buyer, they're going to look at that as blood in the water, and it's going to cause you to sell that house for lower than if you price it aggressively to begin with, and then create multiple offer situations or price it right in that particular range. So again, you go over that information, you find out, you go over the competition, and then you also have to find out what is the motivation of the seller. And then when you come up with what you think, again, you go the midpoint of that range, then you prepare an estimation of proceeds. So you're going to look at, what's the title insurance going to cost? Doc prep fee of deed bill of sale, the commission, state and local transfer taxes. And then you're going to add all those up, and then you're going to also ask them for the balance of their mortgage, and then you're going to come up with a sheet of what they're going to net. So now you've gone over, again, here's where the range is, this is what I think it's going to sell for, this is what you're going to walk away with, and then the last thing that you're going to go over with them is your value proposition or your marketing plan. And what I tell every single person that I train for listings is if you don't feel like you're the absolute best person to list that particular property, you shouldn't walk into the listing appointment. If you're prepared for the listing appointment, you know your information, you are comfortable doing an estimation of proceeds, and most importantly, you understand your value proposition. You are worth your commission and all these other fees that you're looking at. When you're confident in that, it will come across as being confident. And again, even if you're competing against other agents that are more experienced, there's always going to be something that you can do that other agent cannot do. And that's up to you to know that.